In at number 5 we have Stockx Beach. The Stockx Beach is a popular sightseeing spot for locals and tourists to see and take pictures of the northern lights, but many people think that this beach is extremely haunted. It is located in the southeast coast of Iceland and has a stunning view with a massive mountain and beautiful black sand. A photographer, Eric Bennett, had an experience where he had stayed on the beach all night to wait for the lights to take pictures. He and his friend Matt were the only people there as the sun went down and the ocean tide came up and washed away all the footprints from the people during the day. They go to the car for a nap, and at 11 PM they wake up and find the northern lights shining throughout the sky. They get out their tripods and cameras and start shooting. They were the only 2 people on the beach. When they looked down, they saw mysterious footprints leading up to their tripod, and then they just stopped. They were big, defined, wet footprints. They suddenly turned on their headlamps and no other footprints of humans were found in sight. Eric showed the photos he had taken of the footprints to Matt and he freaked out, saying he had a strange feeling the entire night and wasn't able to nap because he felt like someone was standing outside of the car watching them. The 2 men stayed and tried to take more photos, but they started hearing voices being carried around the beach by the wind. A dark and heavy feeling was weighing on them, so they left immediately, and as they drove away the heavy feeling started going away. Eric had told his story to a fellow traveller, and the man had just finished a documentary about the haunted beach and that there have been many sightings by locals and tourists of a giant hairy man walking out of the ocean at night. This beach is also home to many shipwrecks over time, and many believe that the souls that passed away from these wrecks still roam the beach to this day. In at number 4 we have Barton Lake. Barton Lake, otherwise known as White River Lake, is located in the highland on the Jolma Highland. Many icebergs surround the area, and because of the glacial rivers, the lake always looks a bit milky, which contributes to the nickname. One of the many huts or travel lodges in the highlands that locals and tourists can stay in while in Iceland. There is one hut in particular that is rumored to be haunted, and it's the mountain hut at Hitvarnes, nearby the lake. It's rumored to be one of the most haunted places in Iceland. The hut was built by the Icelandic Touring Association in 1930, and there are many paranormal stories surrounding this hut since its inception. Many claim to see the ghost of a young lady dressed in grey in the hut. Many locals and guests claim to experience disturbances by the spirit, and some have claimed to have seen her in one of the windows from outside when arriving late at night, and then when entering the hut it was empty. A particular bed in the hut is believed to be unsafe and almost impossible to sleep in. Many people who have tried to sleep in the bed claim that they have been kicked out of the bed by force during the night, and when they were woken up no one was around. It's said that this is a ghost of a young woman and it's her bed and she won't allow anyone to sleep in it, hence why people are forced out of the bed while sleeping. Many travelling in Iceland avoid staying in this hut, but many paranormal investigators and ghost lovers visit to try and come in contact with the woman.
Number 3 on this list is McKenzie State Recreation Area. It's honestly really too bad that this place is haunted because from what I've read it's quite beautiful. 13 acres of lush Hawaiian nature by the water. Beautiful lookout spots, ironwood trees, but also a bunch of ghosts. Apparently this area has seen some horrible tragedies over the years. Murders and just other horrible things have taken place here and left their mark. The most famous story is of a couple who was recently engaged. They went out to this park and were staying overnight doing a little camping trip. For reasons unknown to the police, this couple was beaten to death and left there. This could have been by a person, or it could have also been done by a demon. Their ghosts are certainly some of the most commonly spotted, but other apparitions are also seen occasionally. It should also be noted that just general scary things happen here on the daily. Screams coming from thin air, drastic changes in temperature, the feeling of a dark aura just hanging over top of you. All of this is part of the norm at this park. And like I said, it's really too bad that it had to be this way because in pictures this area just looks freaking gorgeous. For obvious reasons though, I can't possibly recommend going here, and I do advise you to stick to some of the other gorgeous spots Hawaii has to offer. Number 2 on this list is Kalihi Valley. The Kalihi Valley is honestly super beautiful and has some amazing natural terrain just like our park. I wouldn't want to go at nighttime though, because if you do, you may run into some night marchers. Legend says that the Hawaiian night marchers are a group of ghostly apparitions resembling ancient Hawaiian warriors. These warriors are heavily armed with spears and clubs and other archaic weapons and bang loud war drums as they march throughout the island. They appear at night with the goal of searching for their next fight and are fated to do this forever until they find behind it. These warriors were killed many years ago, but it's believed that a curse hangs over them and they're just forever gonna walk this island until they can defend it one final time. The problem is that nobody's really coming to attack Hawaii these days, and these warriors don't have any enemies to slay. Now, the sightings of these phantoms are honestly not as rare as you might think. Many longtime Hawaiian residents have reported having at least one encounter with the night marchers before, with some tourists even saying that they've had run-ins with them. These people are kinda lucky to be living and telling the tale though, because the scariest part about these night marchers is that your life could actually be on the line. It's widely believed that if you were to make direct eye contact with a night marcher, then either you or someone you love is gonna suffer a very grim fate. The only way to save yourself if you happen to stumble upon these warriors, as funny as it may seem, is to lie completely flat on the ground as a sign of respect. I personally don't really know why getting a face full of dirt pleases these ancient warriors, but apparently it does. If you are gonna go check out this valley, then just make sure you do it during the daytime and avoid these night marchers altogether. And finally, number 1 on this list is Canana Cave. This cave has seen some things, man. Only in Your State says once again, Canana Cave, a truly mysterious sight. This sinister story features Kamaholia, a shapeshifter who could transform himself from a shark into a man. He and his human wife gave birth to a son, Nanawa. When the son discovered his taste for human flesh, like all man-eating sharks, he disguised himself as a human in order to trick his victims. He would drag his victims into the cave and eat them. In ancient times, the Hawaiian people were forbidden from entering the cave, fearful that they would be attacked and eaten by this shark man. When residents later found out about Nanawa's true identity, that he was a shark man, they captured and killed him. Today, the souls of those who died here are said to haunt the area, and according to local storytellers, Canana Cave is a repository for psychic energy. This is one location you just won't want to visit at night in Hawaii, or alone ever. So we got a shark into a man, into a sick killer with the souls of those who have died. No, 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 and another big no. This cave is just way too much for anyone to be going to. Hawaii is out here striking us again with the uniqueness, which I definitely thank them for, but this one is just far too much. I personally do not want to have to deal with the dead souls of those who were eaten by a shark man, or possibly even run into the ghost of said shark demon thing. Canana Cave is 100% on the do not travel list and should probably just be boarded up by the sounds of it.
Coming in at number 5, we have Padre Hotel. The Padre Hotel, located in Bakersfield, has a reputation for being a terrifying place to stay. Many admit they were skeptical at first, but the hotel lived up to the paranormal stories. The hotel was first opened in 1928. Since then, it's seen many tragedies take place within its walls. The local archives hold many stories of those who have lost their lives there. These guests now haunt the hotel, leaving behind signs that they still stay here to this day. There have been so many incidents here, it's sometimes unclear who was contacting the guests. In the 1950s, there was a large fire where many perished. Some say that in spots around the hotel, you feel an intense panic and sense of terror come over you, as if you yourself were trapped in the blaze. The upper floors are said to have the most paranormal activity, in particular the 7th floor. It is said to be a hotbed for unexplained paranormal happenings. Many guests even request to stay on this floor to see if they can experience these terrors for themselves. The hotel's general manager has shared some of the terrifying experiences she has had there. She said one night while she was making her rounds, she opened a door to a closet. Suddenly, she had an overwhelming feeling of cold and immediate adrenaline. She said her hair was standing up on her arm. Suddenly the door slammed and she ran as fast as she could out of the hotel. She said she told a couple of people who found her outside. She was clearly frightened and everyone wanted to know what she saw. She said since then she has rarely told the story. She has worked there for over 10 years and has never felt fear like this before. Others have witnessed reoccurring ghosts, stories that fit together from strangers who have never met. One common sight at the hotel is a man stood on the roof. Many see him as they first arrive at the hotel thinking he might be doing work on the roof. They think nothing of it. He has been seen many times by different guests. Those who ask what he is doing up there are told no one is allowed on the roof after a tragic accident had occurred at the hotel years ago. Many believe it is the man's ghost who keeps appearing to guests as a warning to not enter the hotel. In at number 4 we have Alcatraz Island. Alcatraz Island is one of the most notorious prisons in history and can be found on the San Francisco Bay. Before it became a federal penitentiary, it was discovered by Spanish naval officer and explorer Juan Manuel de Ayala, who founded the island in 1775 and built several small buildings and other minor structures on the island. In 1850, President Millard Fillmore ordered Alcatraz Island to be set aside specifically as a United States military reservation for military purposes following the Mexican-American War. In 1861, the island held hundreds of Civil War prisoners. Then, in 1934, the prison opened and operated until March 1963, and as of lately has become a major tourist attraction. Alcatraz is the site of a now abandoned federal prison, the oldest operating lighthouse on the west coast of the United States, and early military fortifications. Landmarks on the island include the main cell house, dining hall, lighthouse, the ruins of the warden's house, social hall, parade ground, recreation yard, water tower, and other small buildings. Some of the most infamous criminals were kept at Alcatraz over the years, and due to the strong currents around the island and the ice-cold water temperatures, it made escaping nearly impossible. Some of the most notorious criminals held at Alcatraz include Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Bumpy Johnson. Contrary to popular belief, it was in fact possible to escape and swim to shore. Extremely hard, but possible. During the 29 years of operation, the penitentiary claimed that no prisoner successfully escaped, but many question that. A total of 36 prisoners made 14 different escape attempts. 23 were caught alive, 6 were shot and killed during their escape. 2 drowned, and 5 are listed as missing and presumed drowned, but that is highly debated. Many believe that the 5 missing, all or at least some of them, were able to make it to land and were never caught. Due to the amount of history and deaths in and around the island, many believe there are dozens of spirits that roam in the abandoned buildings and even in death are unable to escape the island. Alcatraz is a popular tourist attraction because of its ghost sightings, weird occurrences, and history, and they offer daily tours to see the island and its buildings.
Number 3 on this list is the Imperial Museum of Brazil. The Imperial Museum of Brazil is apparently one of the most haunted locations in the country. It's located in Petrópolis and was built right where the palace of Dom Pedro II used to live. Dom Pedro II, according to Google, was the second and last monarch of the Empire of Brazil, reigning for over 58 years. He was born in Rio de Janeiro, the 7th child of Emperor Dom Pedro I of Brazil and Empress Dona Maria Leopoldina, and thus a member of the Brazilian branch of the House of Braganza. Now, even though he died in 1891, his ghost has never truly left. It's said that this museum is often host to his ghost, and also the ghosts of the staff that used to work at his residence. These ghosts don't appear to be particularly harmful in their nature. In fact, many people have reported having conversations with these people, not even recognizing that they were talking to a ghost until after the interaction. Hundreds of sightings have happened over the years of spirits walking through the museum in the night. The whole story reminds me a lot of the movie Night at the Museum, except instead of the museum's exhibits coming to life, it's a bunch of ghosts. As much as I preach not going to these haunted spots, if there was anyone that I would go to, then it would have to be this one. I honestly think it'd be pretty cool to have a conversation with the ghost of the last reigning monarch of Brazil. I can't say a lot of people have done that before. Number 2 on this list is the Dream Beach. This beach is located in Sao Paulo, and like most Brazilian beaches, it's quite beautiful. It's an amazing spot for tourists and people looking for their fix of surfing. It's also an attraction for people who are interested in the paranormal, considering it's very haunted. The Dream Beach is said to be haunted by a couple. This couple reportedly drowned together at this beach many years ago, and now their spirits haunt its shores. The whole origin story of how they drowned is kind of up in the air, but people believe that bystanders saw them drowning and nobody sprung to action to help them. Instead, they all just watched. This obviously angered this couple, and now the spirits believe that humans are inherently evil. Several drownings have been linked to this ghostly couple in the past. An apparition will appear in the water and pretend that they're drowning. People will hear the cries and go to save them, but will be pulled into the waves a little bit too far and then drown in the ocean. I personally find it a little bit ridiculous that these ghosts would be trying to kill the people that decide to save them. Like, I would think that they would want to hurt the people who don't try to save the apparition, but I suppose they're simply just angry with humans as a whole. These ghosts will also appear on the shore sometimes and let out loud shrieks. All the lifeguards and people who who monitor the beach are familiar with the lore, with many of them having their own run-ins with this couple in the past. The problem with these ghosts is that if you do go to this beach and see somebody drowning, then you may be walking into a trap by going to help. But if you don't go to help and it's a real person, then you'll have to live with yourself knowing that you let somebody die. Brazil has a lot of beautiful beaches, and if it was me, I would look to one of the other ones for my surfing fix. Number 1 on this list is the Jolma Building. This Jolma Building, which is now called Praça de Bandeira, was a building that was located in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and was completed in 1971. This was a big skyscraper and had 25 floors to it and could have hundreds of people in it at one time. Sadly, something extremely tragic happened at this building in 1974 when hundreds of people were in fact inside of it. The building caught fire and had a horrible blaze that killed hundreds of people. The death toll rose above 200, with some people saying that it could be closer to 400 or 500. This horrible fire started due to an electrical short in an air conditioning unit. This building was not built to handle something like this either, as it didn't have adequate means of escaping and there were no sprinklers installed in the building. The fire crews took far too long to get there as well due to the traffic jam that was mounting surrounding the building. This fire goes down as the second worst skyscraper fire in history, only behind the September 11th attacks and fatalities. Someone who had arrived very early on is reported saying, "When I got there, the flames were already racing up through the building. Already people were jumping from the windows." All of this horrible death has led this location to become extremely haunted. Obviously, after this brutal fire, there was not much left of the building, but they decided to start construction on the area again, and that's where you get the new building, Praça de Bandeira. Even though they changed the name, the spirits still cling to this location. Many reports of ghosts have been told by the people that visit this spot. One common story is the apparition of an older man that will appear to certain people. He's covered in third-degree burns and will wail and scream as if he's still burning. Another story is the 13 people in the elevator. It's believed that 13 people got trapped in the elevator during the fire and burned to death in there together. Stories have been told of people waiting for the elevator, and when it comes, seeing 13 people that look half dead standing there in front of them. The elevator's lights will flicker sometimes, and it may just stop without warning as well. What happened decades ago, and I cannot echo this enough, is such a horrible and tragic event. It's no wonder that the spirits of these people potentially still linger at this location.
Coming in at number 5, we have Ozone Disco. What a name, I kind of want to go. In March of 1996, a tragic accident happened in Quezon City's Ozone Disco. The local universities had just done their yearly graduation ceremonies. The students were looking to celebrate, and there was a party being thrown for them at the disco. There were around 350 guests attending that night, even though the building had only been cleared to safely hold 35 people. Due to the large amount of people in such a small place, when the fire broke out, they did not stand much chance of escape. Tragically, around 200 people did not make it out that night. Not only did the fire consume the lives of many, but others were trampled in the chaos of trying to escape. The one fire exit the building had been blocked by the building next door, meaning the large amount of people who fled to it to escape became trapped. It was reported that when entering the building to look for survivors, the bodies were piled up waist high. Survivors of the fire explained how around midnight sparks started flying from the DJ booths shortly after smoke appeared. Partygoers thought it was part of the experience, that it was all pyrotechnics to mark the new day. This meant that many did not flee as soon as they should have. All of this combined into a huge tragedy that claimed the lives of so many who were just about to start their lives. Since the incident, the club has been closed and abandoned. However, those who are around the club at night have witnessed some paranormal activity. Some have heard music coming from the club's doors or seen disco lights from a distance. You might think these are just kids who have snuck into party, but others have heard disturbing screams for help, but as they got closer to investigate, the screams fade away. There is a clear warning to those who might try to visit the place today that it's not safe. You might meet a paranormal spirit angry from the tragedy, or you might have a dangerous accident of your own. Coming in at number 4, we have Malakan Palace. Malakan Palace is the White House of the Philippines. It is the official residence and principal workplace for the President of the Philippines. It was originally built in 1750, so it has a long history, making it perfect for some paranormal happenings. The building has been home to many important people, but has also been a part of revolutions within the country, leading to many tragic passings on the property. In particular, there is one story that during one of the revolts by the people, they stormed and seized the home. They found one presidential worker who is now unknown and made their own justice. Although this is not a confirmed story, it is often told to explain one of the paranormal guests who has been pictured outside of the home. They have been named the Headless Ghost. The photo captured shows the outside of the palace with a headless figure facing the camera. It is thought that this poor soul was separated with his head before passing and now walks the halls searching for it. He's not the only ghost that has been spotted on the premises though. There have been sightings of former presidents, such as Manuel Quezon and Manuel Roxas. There is also a report where Governor Amy Marcos, daughter of Ferdinand Marcos, actually saw Quezon's ghost at one point during her father's presidency. I guess when you dedicate your life to serving as president, it is hard to let go of the place you call home. If you were to visit, maybe keep your camera handy. You never know who you might just see. Coming in at number 3, we have House on the Embankment. The House on the Embankment is a block-wide apartment building that was built in 1931. With the relocation of the capital from St. Petersburg to Moscow, there was an increase in housing demand for civil servants. The apartments were luxury for their time, including telephones, central heating, and high ceilings. When the Great Purge happened in the late 1930s, the residents were detained in their homes. During this time, the building was referred to as the House of Preliminary Detention. As well as the residents, they would bring people they had detained elsewhere and force them into the apartments. Reports say that the apartments hold up to 5 sets of occupants at one time. During this time, over half of the original residents disappeared. It is believed they had been taken away, but no one ever knew they were simply never seen again. In present day, there are 505 apartments within the building, some used as offices, as well as theatres, restaurants, and retail stores. The Great Purge left a mark on the building that it may never shake. Many executions were performed on the premises during this time. It is believed that the building is full of ghosts, victims of that time that cannot move on. Residents have seen paranormal things from within their home that they cannot explain. Some have seen things in the corner of their eyes. It appears like someone is walking around their home, but when they turn to see, they have gone. One terrified resident even reported seeing a man at the end of their bed, staring at them as they slept. When they jumped up from fear, the man disappeared. From all the stories we hear, it seems like the old residents are still attempting to live in their homes, lost and confused about what happened to them. Coming in at number 2, we have Greedov Canal. The Greedov Canal is located in St. Petersburg. It was constructed in 1739 alongside the existing river Krivusha. It is rare that a canal would be haunted, but the haunting is more of a yearly thing that you should avoid at all costs. The story goes back to 1881 with the Russian Empire revolutionary Sofia Perovskaya. She was arrested here and there for the revolutionary talk, but it was her final plan that would become the end of her, when her friend was arrested days before she took over the responsibility of the planned attack on Alexander II. The night before the attack, she helped to assemble the bombs that they were going to use. The attack went off as planned and Alexander II passed away due to her actions. She was quickly captured and was to be trialed for her crimes. Her friend, who was arrested the day prior, wanted to save his own life and turned in the rest of the participants. They were tried and sentenced to hanging. She was the first woman in Russia sentenced for acts of opposing her country. It was reported that her acts inspired other activists around the world in the years following. The day she died was March 22nd. It is now said that each year on the night of March 22nd, the air is misty. If you were to be walking down the canal, you would see the ghost of a young girl walking up and down the canal. She looks completely blue with a red mark on her neck. The worst part of the tale is that those who meet her become cursed. She is a bad omen. It is even rumored that she has caused pedestrians their lives. There have been a large number of mysterious disappearances or people falling into the river late at night when no one is around. Luckily, she can only appear once a year, so as long as you stay clear on that night, you should be safe. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Moscow Kremlin. The Kremlin is a world-famous fortified complex in the center of Moscow. It is the best known of the Kremlins. It includes 5 palaces, 4 cathedrals, along with the enclosing wall and towers. The complex is now the official residence of the President of the Russian Federation, as well as a museum for tourists. Before it was a museum for the public, it was used for the Soviet Union, and remnants of this still remain. The corridors are still lined with brown Soviet tiles, and the walls still have some of the secret communication wires. There have even been bones uncovered during archaeologists' dig in the underground storage rooms. They once buried their own on site. Some of the findings date back to medieval times. There are many mysteries hidden within the vast space of the Kremlin. There are still sections of the Kremlin today that go mostly unused, and many things may have not been uncovered to this date. There have been wars fought and secrets kept within the walls, and some of them have led led to restless spirits trying to contact the living. There have been sightings of various ghosts as well as other unexplained paranormal activity that takes place while guests visit. One of the most common sights is that of an old soldier. At first he seems to blend in with the other security, but as you begin to notice his old uniform, he will often vanish. He has been seen by different guests on different occasions, but no one has been able to get closer to the spirit to see who they are or why they might be there. There have also been sightings of what is believed to be the royal children playing. They were all baptized on site during the 17th century. The monastery was unfortunately blown up in 1929 to make room for the new buildings. Around that site you can sometimes hear children playing, and some have even claimed to see children dressed in older looking clothing. It is believed their spirits choose to rest here, as it was where they grew up and had a deep connection to the place. These are just a couple of instances of hauntings around the site. There is so much more to discover and see at the Kremlin. In at number 5 we have Dellis Cave. Dellis Cave is one of the most famous and well-known haunted caves in the world, and tourists and locals visit often to try and come in contact with the paranormal spirits that haunt the cave. It's located in Penteli, a mountain to the north of Athens, Greece, and has been around since the 5th century. Back then it was used as a marble quarry by the builders of the Acropolis, and the cave was actually discovered by accident during work for the extraction of marble. During the Middle Ages it was used by Orthodox Christian hermits, and later on a small church was built at the entrance of the cave, featuring an unusual double layout, one part devoted to Saint Spiridon and one to Saint Nicholas. It was used as a place of worship for the followers of Pan and the nymphs. It is also believed to have been, and still could possibly be, used by other religious groups, mainly occultists. The cave got its name from a belief that an infamous 19th century thief and robber named Dellis used the cave as a hideout, and legend has it that he hid his treasures inside the cave, and over the years many people have come to try and find his fortune. Many times throughout history the cave has been used as a shelter for civilians, and in 1977 construction work started on the cave, and it's unclear who was behind it. Many believe it might have been the works of the government wanting to use the cave and surrounding areas for the US and Greek army. The cave has been associated with various paranormal activity and ghost sightings since the ancient times, this being the main reason it's being used for a place of worship. The mystical character of the cave continues to fascinate people to this day, and dozens of urban legends are connected to the cave. There are numerous tales of people experiencing strange and abnormal activity that has taken place in and around the cave. Stories tell of electronics that stop working, water flowing the wrong way, and disappearances of explorers who enter the cave to never emerge again. Also, details such as a small handprint near the entrance furthers the mystery of this place. In at number 4, the Necromantian. The Necromantian was an ancient Greek temple built and dedicated to the god and goddess of the underworld. The Necromantian was an ancient Greek temple built and dedicated to the god and goddess of the underworld, Hades and Persephone. According to tradition, it was located on the banks of Acheron River in Epirus, near the ancient city of Ephria. This site was believed to be the door to Hades, the realm of the dead. The word Necromantian means oracle of the dead, and the faithful came here to talk to their dead ancestors. Other temples were known to house oracles of the dead, but the Necromantian of Ephira was the most important. It belonged to the Thesprotians, the local Epirot Greek tribe, and they would participate in rituals involving elaborate ceremonies where they would seek to speak to the dead. The people would eat specific foods like pork, bread and oysters, said to cleanse the body, and would proceed to sacrifice a sheep, and the faithful would descend through a series of meandering corridors leaving offerings to the people as they passed through the iron gates. The celebrants would then witness the priest arise from the floor and fly throughout the temple, said to be possessed by the souls of the dead. The Necromantian was also described as the entrance by which Odysseus made his Nekia, which is the ancient Greek cult practice and is a rite by which ghosts were called up by the Greeks and questioned about the future. This temple was believed by many to be the final resting spot. Once they passed on and their bodies decayed into the earth, their spirits were released, and the Necromantian was the final resting place for the dead. Many locals and tourists come to try and communicate with the dead. There is an abundance of paranormal activity in this place, and it is known as an entryway to the underworld, and is one of the only direct channels on Earth for the souls of the underworld to come and communicate with humans. Coming in at 3, Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia. Also known as ESP, this is a former American prison located in Pennsylvania and was operational from 1829 to 1971. America's most notorious criminals lived in these walls, including Al Capone and bank robber Willie Sutton. Initially designed by John Haviland Neverland, Eastern State is considered to be the world's first true penitentiary and was renowned for its revolutionary system of incarceration, also known as the Pennsylvania system, or separate system, which encouraged separate confinement for inmates as a form of rehabilitation. Inmates were housed in cells that could only be accessed by a small door that led to an equally as small exercise yard attached to the back of the prison. Rumor has it the doors were small so prisoners would have a harder time attempting to get out, thus minimizing the chances of a guard getting attacked, while others have suggested the small doors forced prisoners to bow while entering or exiting their cells, which is related to penance and ties in with the religious inspiration of the prison. When an inmate would leave the cell, his head would be covered with a hood, so he couldn't see or be seen by others. However, by 1913, the penitentiary was forced to abandon its solitary system due to overcrowding, before closing its doors entirely in 1970. As of today, the penitentiary welcomes thousands of visitors yearly for both its museum and ghost tours, with some folks reporting paranormal happenings including disembodied laughter, shadowy figures, and pacing footsteps. Coming in at 2, St. Augustine Lighthouse, Florida. This lighthouse is a private aid to navigation and an active working lighthouse in Florida, and was built between 1871 and 1874. As it stands, nearly 225,000 people visit the lighthouse annually, due to its reputation for otherworldly visitors. The lighthouse has had many tragedies over the years, with one of its many ghosts rumored to be that of a lighthouse keeper who fell to his death while painting the tower. Not only that, but 3 young girls also drowned when their cart they were playing on broke and fell into the ocean, with some visitors claiming to hear the sounds of children playing in and around the lighthouse. This haunted location has been featured in episodes of the sci-fi series Ghost Hunters, as well as My Ghost Story. However, researcher Joe Nickel, who investigated the lighthouse, has stated that there is no credible evidence the place is haunted, and instead noted that the spooky noises are just seagulls or even the wind. Party pooper. And finally, coming in at number 1, Lep Castle Island. Lep Castle, yep, it's pronounced Lep, is a castle located in Calgary County, Offaly Island. Now, there are varied accounts of when the castle came to be, with most sources pointing to the 13th century or even as late as the 15th century. Now, it was originally built by the O'Bannon clan before ruling was taken over by the O'Carroll clan. However, all was not well within the castle. Legend has it that during a struggle for power within the clan during the 1530s, one member plunged a sword into his brother, a priest, while he was holding mass in the castle chapel. The butchered priest fell across the altar and passed away in front of his family. The room is now formally known as the Bloody Chapel, with many witnesses claiming to have spotted the priest haunting the area at night. However, that's not all. The castle's history is incredibly macabre. During renovations in the early 1900s, a few workmen stumbled across a secret dungeon in the Bloody Chapel that was housing human skeletons that filled 3 cartloads when hauled away. The dungeon was designed in a way that prisoners would fall through a trapdoor and instantly have their lungs punctured by wooden spikes at the bottom, ultimately dying a slow and painful death. Many tourists have also spoken of a red lady who is reported to walk the halls at night holding a dagger. The castle has become notorious around the globe, with media flocking to capture its paranormal offerings, including ABC Family's Scariest Places on Earth and Living TV's Most Haunted.
Number 5 on this list is the Island of Dolls. This place has got to be one of the creepiest spots on the entire planet if you ask me. Located in the canals near Mexico City, the Island of Dolls got its name from the residents that live in the trees. If you hadn't guessed already, those residents are creepy looking dolls. They weren't the only ones living here in the past though. The haunting of this island is deeply tied with a man named Don Julian Santana Barrera. In the mid 20th century, Don Julian was living with his wife and children in Mexico City. However, for reasons unknown to us, he decided to leave his family and isolate himself on an island in Texulo Lake. He was completely alone on this island until he made a chilling discovery. The body of a young girl had washed ashore, and it was clear that she had drowned in this lake far earlier. This shook Don Julian to his core, and his already fragile mind was tested even more. Now, it's rumored that he believed the spirit of this girl was talking to him, that her ghost was haunting the island, and that she had a mission for him to accomplish. So when a doll floated through the lake and found its way onto the island a little bit after her body had been found, it fit into this narrative perfectly. Don Julian believed that the ghost of this girl could only be appeased if he took this doll and hung it from a tree on his island. He went and did this, but then his obsession for these dolls grew. Whether he was truly being haunted by this ghostly spirit or his mind had deteriorated to a point of no return is unknown, but we do know that he dedicated the next 50 years of his life to filling this island with dolls. Dolls that he found in the canals, in the garbage on the streets. Sometimes they were missing limbs or there was only a head left of them, but it didn't matter to Don Julian, he would still hang them regardless. Nowadays the island is filled with thousands of dolls who look like they've seen far better days. What caps this story off and made its legend ripple through Mexican lore is the manner in which our island keeper died, drowning in Texulo Lake exactly how the young girl had done so 50 years earlier. Today it is believed that his spirit along with the young girls remain on this island. Locals say if you were to visit this place you must bring a doll of your own or else the spirit of Don Julian will haunt you even after you leave. Number 4 on this list is the House of Mummies. The House of Mummies is a small museum that is home to a plethora of mummies. What makes this place so interesting is that no one intended for these bodies to be mummified. Guanajuato, where this museum is located, has a very unique climate and soil. In 1833, that region was going through a bad outbreak of disease and there were a lot of deaths. Some of the bodies that were buried during this time were later found to have been naturally mummified or had mummified themselves. People were fascinated and took them to a specific building which later has been transformed into a museum. Now there's a lot of lore surrounding these bodies, but the general consensus is that there is still a bit of life to these mummies. People have reported feeling their living presence when they go and visit this museum. They've also said that they have felt them watching them as they go through or have noticed their bodies turn to look at them. It truly sounds like something straight out of a Scooby-Doo book, but then again, so does natural mummification. Locals even say that they believe some of the mummies sneak out of this museum sometimes and cause trouble in the night when nobody's looking.
Number 3 on this list is Salgotarjani Cemetery. Cemeteries are supposed to be peaceful places where the dead can pass. But sometimes that doesn't happen and they end up like this one, deeply haunted. Orbitz writes, on the far outskirts of Budapest lies a forgotten cemetery straight out of a horror movie. The tall, imposing stone gates now face an outline set on train tracks with an eerie silence only broken a few times an hour by a passing train. A knock on the gates results in 2 large guard dogs rushing to the iron bars, jaws slapping as they attempt to ward off any unwelcome visitors. Inside the giant walls of the once magnificent cemetery are rows of impressive tombs of certainly important people of their time. This cemetery is the oldest Jewish burial ground on the pest side of the city, but fell into ruins after most of the Jewish population was forced out of the area during World War II. After a short stint as a Soviet military hangout, the forest is slowly trying to take back the land, gnawing around the massive stone and marble burial chambers. Over the years, many of the tombs have been opened and looted of anything of value. The disturbed and derelict cemetery is sure to have at least a few angered spirits still hanging around, making it a place that you may not want to visit after sunset. Angered spirits is right, guys. There are countless stories of people getting literally attacked by unknown entities that they can't defend themselves against. I imagine that these are the spirits of the individuals whose graves were robbed. That is just such a blatant act of darkness that it's bound to wake up the spirits of the dead and anger them. I'm also under the impression that some people were killed here during World War II, which most likely only adds to the haunting. The guard dogs are there for a reason, and in this case, it might actually be for our own safety. Number 2 on this list is the town of Versusprum. This town is also known as the Soviet Ghost Town. Atlas Obscura says, the forest is slowly eating the crumbling buildings within the ghost town. Once a bustling Soviet military base, it now looks like an eerie post-apocalyptic wasteland. This was mainly built in the 1960s to house Soviet soldiers. It functioned like a tiny town for the soldiers and their families, forming an isolated, self-sustaining community. It had many fixtures you'd expect to see in any civilian town, like schools, a movie theater, pubs, and restaurants, though most of the base was dominated by large blocks of barracks. After the Soviet Union fell in the late 1980s, many of the residents left the base. The Hungarian Defense Forces were gradually laid off, and the nearby War Helicopter Regiment became defunct in 2004. Now the base's only visitors are curious urban explorers and the occasional airsoft players who dart and duck around many of the neglected buildings. It didn't take long for the abandoned town to begin looking like a scene from an end-of-the-world action thriller. The buildings have begun to fade and fall. Greenery creeps over the unused streets and climbs the walls of the derelict structures. Nature is reclaiming the site from civilization, slowly clutching it within its grasp. So to begin, the town is already pretty freaking creepy. However, there's been rumors of an entity that lives here as well. In the time since it's been abandoned, people believe that a beast or monster has taken up residence here. The few people who have gone here have reported the feeling of being stalked, as if something similar to a predator lives here now and it's out to get them. Talks of a potential werewolf have been thrown out there as well, which I can honestly believe. Whatever this creature is, it's dangerous. Stay away from this town at all costs. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Isvantelic Trainyard. This is an abandoned trade yard where old cars rot away. Some of these cars rotting here though have seen their fair share of horrors. Atlas Obscura says more than 100 locomotives and train cars rot away, some in deteriorating depots, others out in the field. Among these are some very rare train engines and a few cars that are said to have transported prisoners to Auschwitz during the Holocaust. Built at the beginning of the 20th century as a repair yard for the National Railway, only a few southern parts of the train yard are still in use while most of it is abandoned. 2 large depots, a few smaller sheds, and open-air areas are scattered with locomotives and rail cars, some of them very ancient, others more recent, from Hungary's time as part of the Soviet regime. Some of the trains were brought here to be repaired and then were to be put to the Budapest Railway Museum, but never made it to the display and were instead left behind in the train yard. Now, one big reason that they never made it is because these cars are haunted, guys. The literal car that went to Auschwitz. Just think how many horrors that tiny box has seen. The souls of those who were forced in there still linger, and this train yard is haunted because of it. I feel for these souls too. They never asked for this, and now they've just been forgotten by the world. Hopefully, one day, they can find rest. Number 5 on this list is the Pali Highway. This highway is super unique in how it's haunted and honestly really interesting. Quoting Only in Your State, they write, "Nowhere is there a higher concentration of varied ghost stories than along Ohio's beautiful and haunted Pali Highway. From ancient Hawaiian legends to major battle sites, the highway meanders through the Kewalo Mountains between Honolulu and the Windward Coast, and it's one of the most ghastly places in all of Hawaii. It's said that Pele and the demigod Kamapua, a half-man, half-pig, had a bad breakup and agreed to never see each other again. Legend has it that you cannot take pork over the Pali Highway because it means that you're symbolically taking Kamapua from one side of the island to the other. If you try to bring pork across, your car will stop at some point along the journey and an old woman with a dog will appear. To continue along your way, you must feed the pork to the dog." Alright, so first, Hawaii is freaking awesome. I've done so many videos about so many haunted places, but never once have I heard a story about a haunted road where you need to feed pork to a dog. Like, shout out to our Hawaiian ghosts for switching things up. Also, the fact that this road symbolizes the breakup of 2 gods is pretty awesome. Pele, for those who don't know, is a Hawaiian deity of volcanoes and fire, and as the story tells us, Kamapua is a demigod in his own right. Now, as cool as this story is, I personally wouldn't want to be messing with the god of volcanoes or a half-pig, half-man superhuman, so if you do go down this road, do as the story says, and ditch the meat. Number 4 on this list is the Kaimuki House. Every place that's any place needs to have at least one haunted house, and this is Hawaii's. Only in Your State once again writes, "The famous haunted Kaimuki House, located on the corner of 8th and Harding on a foundation of 2 beds of lava rock, is known to many as one of the most haunted places on the island. The house itself looks relatively normal, but the story behind it is anything but. The creature said to reside in this house is a kasha, a man-eating ghost from Japanese folklore, and the stories surrounding its haunting of the Kaimuki House have been extensively documented. The original tale tells of a young couple who moved into the home and their neighbors who, upon hearing loud bangs and crashes, suspected domestic violence and called the police. When the police arrived, the couple claimed that they were being attacked by a force that they couldn't see. So guys, I did some research and looked into this kasha creature, and this is really interesting. One, if it is a kasha, then it's pretty far from home because they're said to reside in Japan. And two, this one functions slightly differently than a typical kasha would. This creature is said to be a giant, grotesque looking cat thing that runs on two legs and looks super mischievous. Typically, a kasha will steal corpses of those who are already dead, specifically people who perform evil deeds in their life. Therefore, it's pretty uncommon for a kasha to actually attack people who are still alive, as the couple in our story reported. All this being said though, kasha are considered to be servants of hell, so I'm not going to put anything past them. This house is the most haunted in all of Hawaii and should be avoided at all costs.
In at number 3 we have Hollowalagara Cemetery. There are many cemeteries around the world and many of them are haunted, and that's also the case for the Hollowalagara Cemetery. This cemetery is one of the most famous in Iceland and is often called the Old Churchyard. Opened in 1838 in Reykjavik and is the largest 19th century cemetery in all of Iceland, and was replacing a previous burial ground used since the Viking times. The city placed the graveyard on a small hill a couple of blocks off the city's central pond. Some of Iceland's most famous people are buried here, including John Sigurðsson, the father of Icelandic independence, Johannes Sveinsson Kjarval, Iceland's most famous painter, and Ingeborg Bjarnason, the first woman member of parliament. The graveyard also houses many of the victims of the 1918 Spanish influenza pandemic and a monument to French sailors who were lost at sea. In a country with minimal trees, the cemetery is covered. It's practically a forest, which makes this resting ground that much more eerie. The graves are surrounded by willow, spruce, birch, and rowan trees. Many come to pay respects to the legendary Icelandic buried here, but many believe the old Vikings previously buried here, along with the influenza victims, are the ones who haunt the living to this day. A videographer from New Zealand that films his travels visited Iceland and went to the cemetery during the night, and he claims to have caught orbs on camera that were floating in and around the gravestones. He had created an entire video of this finding, and he was convinced that there is paranormal activity at this cemetery, and he was thoroughly spooked during his time there. Many paranormal investigators and ghost hunters come to try and interact with these spirits. Locals and tourists who have visited the cemetery have seen spirits and have felt that they are being watched. Many believe the spirits often haunt the grounds at night time, so if you're planning a trip to Iceland, I would avoid the cemetery, especially after the sun goes down. In at number 2 we have the Priest's Stone. Many people in Iceland and in the surrounding areas believe in and have many tales of elves, trolls, and fairy people. One of the most famous tales is about Haunted Rock, where a kind and loving priest's spirit haunts and terrorizes his love even after death, and he still haunts the rock and the people who visit it. The story has been told for ages and are very well known among the people of Iceland. It took place in Hollowalagara, not far away from a town of Akureyri. The story has slightly changed over time, but it's believed that it started on a stormy night before Christmas, when a priest's apprentice rode quite a distance to meet the woman he was in love with. On the way there, the weather was rough, and he drowned while crossing a raging river, and only his horse survived. His love, not knowing of his death, gets a visit the next evening. In the darkness, she believed that it was the priest's apprentice and goes out with him on his horse. During the ride, the man's hat falls off, revealing it was a skeleton. She gains no peace from this ghost, who wants her to join him in death. She goes to a sorcerer for help, and he achieves putting the ghost to rest, but it was on unholy ground, right outside the graveyard at the country church at Mykra. The cursed stone is still believed to hold the lovesick priest's apprentice captive to this day, and the stone is still very visible. Due to this famous tale, many tourists and locals come to see the cursed rock, hoping to come in contact with the priest's apprentice's ghost. In at number 1 we have Hoofy House. The most haunted place in all of Iceland is the Hoofy House. It is believed by locals and tourists to be the most haunted place. This home is located in the city of Reykjavik. It was built back in 1909 and sits on the waterfront just off Borgartun. This home was inspired by Nordic Art Nouveau and was constructed in Norway and shipped to Iceland. The Hoofy home has a haunting history. It was initially built for the French consul Jean-Paul Boulogne in Iceland. Then it was sold to a judge and a poet in Einar Benediktsson, who claimed it was haunted by the ghost of a young woman often nicknamed the White Lady. The ghost is that of Solberg Jonsdottir, who had poisoned herself after Einar's verdict on a notorious case. At the home, she would often appear at the night and haunt him, and the owners of the home claimed to hear strange noises and see the figure of a woman in the early hours of the morning. Other accounts believe that she had drowned, or that the home was built on Viking burial site where the souls of the Vikings still roam the house and the land around it. This home is best known for in 1986, when former US President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, where they discussed negotiations on military control and disarmament. The Hoofy has come to represent Iceland's diplomacy and the start of the demise demise of the Cold War. In 2015, a sculpture of Ina was made and is displayed outside the home. It has also housed many other famous figures over the years, including Queen Elizabeth, Winston Churchill, and Marlene Dietrich. Nowadays, the Hofway is owned by the city of Reykjavik and is currently used for official receptions and meetings, and is not open to the public, but many locals and tourists flock to explore the home from the outside, hoping to come in contact with the ghost of Solberg.
Number 5 on this list is a road to Petropolis. This road comes from Rio de Janeiro and goes to Petropolis. And before I talk about why this road is haunted, I do want to say that the name Petropolis is so freaking cool. Like, of course, a place called Petropolis is haunted. That name was just inherently meant for magic and lore. Anyways, guys, this is a road that leads out of the big part of Rio and goes to the northern mountain city of Petropolis. This road is near a national park, and considering it also goes through the mountains, can get pretty secluded at points. It's along this road that you may encounter the vision of a ghost. Apparently, there's no rhyme or reason to who this ghost will show itself to, but drivers have reported seeing a stunningly beautiful blonde woman wave to them on the side of the road. The drivers will stop and see if she needs any help, and this woman will tell them that a car crash has happened in a nearby ditch. Typically, the drivers will get out of their car and go see if they can help. Sure enough, as the woman described, there will be a car that's turned over in a ditch, smoking, as if it's just swerved off the road and crashed. When the people look inside the vehicle though, they will see the dead body of that same woman who just pointed them in the direction of the vehicle. A few seconds will pass where the person will internalize what they're seeing, and then the car and the woman will vanish into thin air, like it was never there in the first place. Legend says that this woman died from a car accident along this road when she swerved into a ditch. Now she haunts the road and all that drive through it. She isn't necessarily out to harm you, which is always a good thing, but the people that have seen this are typically scarred for life. They will be standing in this ditch looking at the empty space where a car used to be, completely shell-shocked. I personally can't imagine what would be going through my head if that was me standing there. I also feel bad for this ghostly woman too. She obviously doesn't want to hurt anyone, but her spirit can't seem to pass on and get the closure that it needs. Maybe the reason that she shows people her death is because when she initially crashed in her car, nobody stopped to check up on her. That's my theory anyways, but let me know in the comments down below if you have any theories of your own as to why this ghost is showing them her car crash. Number 4 on this list is Brasilia City Hall. Brasilia City Hall is a government building that has had quite a scary history. This building is said to be haunted now, and it's no wonder why, considering the amount of unsettling things that have went down in this location. First off, before this building was even constructed, there was a mortuary here. This was one of the biggest mortuaries in the area and housed thousands of bodies while it was operating. During that time, there were already rumors about it being haunted. The spirits of some of the dead that wanted to cling to life haunting the space. The legend of a haunting got blown up though when the mortuary burned down with a bunch of dead bodies inside of it. This was when people decided to transition this from a mortuary to the building that it is today, the Brasilia City Hall. All of the ghosts that have been accumulating during its time of being a mortuary though, and in that bad fire, they didn't go anywhere. Cabinets flying open, things being thrown around the room, lights turning on and off, and sounds that come from apparently thin air. These are all regular occurrences at the Brasilia City Hall. It doesn't stop with just that though. In fact, the spirits that occupy this place can become quite a nuisance. There's a famous story about how one man was left in the building. He was finishing up with his day and was about to leave, but he got locked in that building. He was the only one on the premises though, and it's impossible for him to lock himself in, so somebody else had to have done it. The only explanation anybody could come up with was the spirits at Brasilia Hall. Frankly, I doubt that we would be able to visit this place anyways, considering it's a government building, but if you do, then pay very close attention to the locks on the door. You might just get locked in yourself.
In at number 3, we have the Queen Mary. The iconic Queen Mary ship is located in Long Beach and is one of the most haunted destinations in the United States. The ship was first christened in 1934 by Queen Mary herself, and it was retired more than 3 decades later. It has since been converted into a hotel where guests can sleep surrounded by the original wood paneling and portholes. If you do plan on staying on the ship, you may not be the only guest here though. There are multiple stories of different spirits that haunt the ship. There are so many different rooms on the ship that are haunted by many different ghosts, including the Mauritania room, the Mayfair room, boiler room number 4, and the first class swimming pool, just to name a few. Stateroom B340 in particular was a problem long before the Queen Mary became a hotel. In 1948, British third class passenger Walker J. Adamson passed passed away in the room, and the details of his death are unknown. Later in 1966, a woman staying in the room reported that she had awoken when the bed covers were pulled off her and she saw a man standing at the foot of her bed. She screamed and rang for the steward, but the man quickly vanished into thin air. Years later, guests staying in the room reported hearing someone knocking on the door in the middle of the night, seeing bathroom lights mysteriously turn on, and even the hotel's maids would often find the bathroom water running even when no one had stayed in the room for days. Another area that is a paranormal hotspot is Shaft Alley or Hatch Door number 13, and it was the site of a gruesome accident where a crewman was crushed to death. His ghost is regularly seen around the area now. People often report hearing the sound of someone running behind them and whistling, while others have noticed that spots of grease that appear to look like fingerprints appear on their face, and some have even seen a figure of a bearded man in blue overalls that looks like a crewman. Due to the amount of paranormal activity, many ghost enthusiasts, investigators, and TV shows frequently visit the ship to stay and partake in the ghost tours they offer. In at number 2 we have the Roosevelt Hotel. The Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood was made famous due to the number of celebrities, past and present, who have stayed there, including one of the most famous women in history, Marilyn Monroe, who stayed at the hotel for 2 years early in her career and posed for her first commercial photography shoot by the hotel's pool. Many believe her spirit, among others, still linger through the halls of the hotel. Some of the most famous people in history have stayed at this notorious hotel, including Charlie Chaplin, Shirley Temple, Prince, Ernest Hemingway, Brad Pitt, and Angelina Jolie, just to name a few. The hotel opened in 1927 and is the oldest continually operating hotel in Los Angeles and is named after the 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. It is a staple in Hollywood due to it being on Hollywood Boulevard and being so close to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and the famous Chinese theater. The first ever Academy Award ceremony was held at the hotel on May 16, 1929, inside the Blossom Ballroom. It was a private ceremony open only to the Academy members, with a total of 270 people in attendance. At the time, the Oscar nickname for the award had not yet been invented. It would be introduced 4 years later. Many guests have experienced paranormal activities while visiting the hotel, like feeling cold spots, receiving mysterious phone calls, and capturing orbs in their photographs. There are many rumors of hauntings and ghosts at the hotel involving celebrities who have previously stayed there, like Montgomery Clift, Carole Lombard, and Errol Flynn. Other stories involve a little girl in a blue dress named Caroline that have been seen by multiple hotel guests and employees. Montgomery Clift's spirit has been blamed for patting guests' shoulders and watching the maids who clean his old room, 928, where he stayed for a total of 3 months while filming From Here to Eternity. Carole Lombard has also been spotted floating around the upper floors. The most famous spirit of the hotel is, of course, Marilyn Monroe. Many people believe she still roams the hotel and can be found in her old room, 1200, and many have witnessed her ghostly figure in the mirror. This hotel is both famous and notorious, and if you're brave enough, you can stay in these celebrities' old rooms. And finally, in at number 1 we have the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles has been known by many to be a haunted hotel, but gained massive media and global attention when the popular Netflix documentary came out regarding the disappearance of Elisa Lam, who went missing while staying at the hotel. The case was extremely mysterious and made many question the sinister background of this notorious hotel. The hotel was built in 1924 as a destination for business travelers and tourists. It flourished throughout the 1940s, but saw a decline as the nearby Skid Row became extremely overpopulated and drugs and crime ran rapid. As many as 10,000 homeless people lived within a 4-mile radius from the hotel. For decades, this hotel had a reputation for violence and death due to the number of mysterious cases that have happened throughout the years at the Cecil. The first documented case of someone taking their own life occurred in 1927 when Percy Cook shot himself while inside his hotel room after failing to reconcile with his wife and child. The next one occurred in 1931, and more happened throughout the 1940s and 50s. Not only have many people taken their own life in this hotel, but many unresolved murders and mysterious deaths have also happened here. Many people believe all these occurrences make this one of the most haunted places in California due to all the souls still roaming around the hotel. One of the most famous true crime cases is that of the Black Dahlia, and it was confirmed in 2015 that Elizabeth Short was seen drinking at the Cecil's bar in the days before her notorious and unsolved murder in 1940. 1947. In the 1980s, the hotel had been the residence of one of the most famous serial killers of all time, Richard Ramirez, nicknamed the Night Stalker. Throughout the 1980s, he ran rapid in his killing spree, and he was a regular presence on the Skid Row area. And according to a hotel clerk who claims to have spoken to Richard, he had stayed at the hotel for weeks before his capture in 1985. Another serial killer, Austrian man Jack Underwaker, stayed at the Cecil in 1991, possibly sought to copy Ramirez's crimes. While staying there, he had killed at least 3 women. An astonishing number of people have lost their lives at this notorious hotel, and many deaths remain unsolved to this day. When Elisa Lam's case was made public, it caused even more confusion and questions about what really goes on at this hotel. The Cecil Hotel is known to be one of the most haunted places not only in California, but throughout the world. Coming in at number 5, we have Stalin's country house. Stalin spent 4 months every summer at his country home between 1943 and 1953. Located near downtown Sochi, his time here put his town on the map forever. For anyone unfamiliar with Stalin, he was a dictator for the Soviet Union from the 1930s until his death in 1953. He was responsible for the genocide of around 20 million people. His house had been mostly kept the same, and tours are given about the history of his life. The house gives insight into his life and mindset. Part of the home is even a hotel where people can sleep in the same room as the man who created so much destruction. He demanded the house be made completely green so that it could blend in with the surroundings, and he would be harder to find. He also refused to have any carpets in the home. He wanted to hear intruders' feet on the stone floor if someone was approaching him. He was clearly paranoid even when summering in his country home. He worked from his office during the night with a phone connected directly to Moscow and would sleep during the day. He often changed the room that he slept in so that nobody would know exactly where he was. Stalin's height was around 5'5", which might not seem important, but it was reported that he had short man syndrome. Due to this, and it's reflected in the build. His pool was only 5 feet deep as opposed to the typical 8 feet deep. The house is eerie and unpleasant for many reasons. Not only can you see into the dark mind of the dictator, but you might catch a glimpse of the man himself. People have seen him walking around the home in his white jacket and smoking his trademark pipe. Some have heard footsteps walking around at night. The noise echoes through the home. Those who have stayed there have said the air can feel terrifying at times, like you're being watched or like you're not welcome. Because you're not. Coming in at number 4, we have St. Michael's Castle. St. Michael's Castle was built in 1801 for royal residence in St. Petersburg. The castle interestingly looks different from each angle as the architects used various styles. It was built like a fortress as the royal family was in fear of assassination. This turned out to not be enough, and their fears were validated when Paul I was assassinated. He has moved into the castle 40 nights earlier. He was attacked in his bedroom by a group of dismissed officers. They tried to force him to sign his abdication from the throne. He resisted and the attackers continued. He was succeeded by his son, Emperor Alexander I. After Paul's passing, the family returned to the Winter Palace. The castle was gifted to the army in 1823. In the early 1990s, it became a museum. It is considered that Paul's spirit is now trapped, unable to leave the castle. It seems to be very restless and is often seen by visitors to the museum. He has mostly been seen walking down corridors carrying a candle. Others have claimed to hear distant screams from closed off parts of the castle. It echoes in the wall like a whisper. People have reportedly tried to celebrate the spirit and speak with it to bring it peace, but after all these years it still appears to be restless and angry about what happened all that time ago. Coming in at number 3, we have Clark Air Base Hospital. Clark Air Base Hospital was used during World War II and the Vietnam War. It now lays abandoned on a redeveloped Air Force base. It is said that as soon as you enter the destroyed building, you instantly feel the paranormal energy that belongs there. The locals believe it to be cursed and dare not enter. Due to this, it is seen as the most haunted hospital in the country. The hospital has been ravaged by time, most parts overgrown with greenery, with others simply falling apart. The hospital today does still attract ghost hunters. Due to the amount of pain and suffering that occurred during its time, there are plenty of lost spirits trapped. A number of visitors have reported hearing voices echo through the empty halls of the hospital. Some hear screams. It is said that the voices of those trapped are of the soldiers who lost their lives in the war. It seems they feel they have unfinished business in the world. Many would have left behind their families to serve their country. These are not the only patients still staying there though. The first floor ward was home to the hospital's pediatric center. People have heard the screams of newborn babies and children laughing. One security guard even heard the running footsteps of what sounded like a child. This entity ran straight past him one night while on patrol. He has since refused to patrol within the hospital walls. The hotel did still operate after the war until a nearby volcano erupted, covering the hospital in ash. This was taken as a sign by the locals that nature was warning them to stay away. There are also those who ignore the warnings and venture inside. Just be warned, it seems to have a habit of causing tragedy. Coming in at number 2 we have Laperole House. The Laperole House was built by Roberto Laperole in the 1930s. During World War II the house was used by Japanese soldiers. They were reportedly a nasty group of brutes. They attacked local women, tortured suspected ties, and even ended their life once they received any information that they had. The house is said to have seen many horrors due to all of this, and the home was never the same after the soldiers left. Those who had been there within this time warned others to stay away. The house transferred ownership after the death of the head of the Laperole clan. They attempted to maintain the home, but the years and horrors do show on the home's old exterior. The house has withstood much more than those around it, both man-made and natural disasters. To everyone's surprise, the house was still standing after the deadly earthquake of 1990. In 2013, the home was turned into a museum. It was at this point that we started to hear more details about the hauntings inside. The show has been visited on many ghost haunting shows, along with being featured in a film. Those who have visited the house have told of what they found and why the house is visited to often by paranormal investigators. One visitor claimed that they heard screams coming from the lower sections of the home. They rushed to go see if someone was hurt, but they found nothing. As they read more about the home, they believe this could have been linked to where the torture happened during the war. Others felt a dark presence in various sections of the home, cold spots or a feeling of sadness that disappeared as quickly as they had felt it. Some said they felt watched, like there is an entity in the home that no one can see, but it is watching all who visit closely. One man claimed he heard water running in the rooms, but when he went to turn it off there was nothing there, not even a source for any water to be coming from. The home is haunted by the ghosts of the past, but might also hold an ancient entity that causes you to feel watched. Either way, this is not a home I'll be visiting anytime soon. And finally, coming in at number 1 we have Manghit Cave. Manghit Cave got its name from the smell of the accumulated bat droppings inside the cave. Located in the central Philippines, this is a scary location due to more than the hauntings. Many people are scared of entering dark and possibly unstable caves, so this one contains more than just the fear of confined spaces. The cave is popular by those who like to explore deep into caves in their spare time, but do it at your own risk. The cave is said to be haunted by lost caving groups. The cave does not offer much light, and the deeper you go, the more lost you get. There have been a number of groups that have gone lost throughout the years with no remains ever recovered. There are so many hidden corners within its maze you will never be found. Those who explore it today have encountered a number of paranormal occurrences. Some report seeing shadows not cast by them or their group, like there is someone else with them. Others have heard footsteps scrambling around as if in panic. Finally, the further in you travel, the more you hear a distant scream of help. Often only one of 2 members of your team will hear this. No matter how far towards the voice you go, it will keep seeming out of reach. This causes people to go further and further into the caving system until their team bring them to their senses to head back. Those who have experienced this believe it may be how the others have gone missing. Some say there may be a demon living deep within the cave looking to bring the lost souls to feast on. Coming in at 5, the Sultan's Palace. At 716 Dauphine Street in the French corner of New Orleans stands a 4-story home housing one of the most unusual yet terrifying ghosts, the Sultan. Built in 1836 by Jean-Baptiste Lapret, a plantation owner who rented out his city home when he was experiencing a shortage of cash. However, the man he rented it out to was a little odd. His name was Prince Suleiman, a Turk who claimed to be the Sultan of a mid-eastern country. He had many wives and family members, as well as slaves and servants. Now, things started to get a little weird when folks began reporting that not only did the Sultan's harem consist of many women, but also young boys, with stories of orgies and kidnappings quickly surfacing. However, things took a truly gruesome turn when a passing neighbor made an early morning discovery. They noticed the house was particularly quiet and saw blood dripping from the gallery oozing out of the front door. He contacted the police, and what they found would haunt them forever. Body parts were strewn all over the house, which was also covered in blood. Women, children, and guards were slaughtered and beheaded. However, there was one body that had been left untouched. The Sultan. He had been buried alive with one hand reaching up through the dirt, almost as if he was trying to claw his way out. The identity of the murderer still remains a mystery to this day, and as of today, his angry spirit is said to roam the home, creating unusual noises, playing loud music, as well as making unwelcome advances on passing female residents. Coming in at 4, the Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. The RMS Queen Mary is a retired British ocean liner that sailed the North Atlantic Ocean between 1936 and 1967 for the Cunard White Star Line. She was built by John Brown and Company in Scotland along with RMS Queen Elizabeth, with the ships being built as a planned 2-ship weekly express service between Southampton and New York. However, with the outbreak of the Second World War, Queen Mary was converted into a troop ship and ferried Allied soldiers during the war. Following that, she was refitted as a passenger service before retiring completely in 1967, during which time she sailed from Southampton to the port of Long Beach, California, where she remains permanently moored. However, since that day, claims have been made that the ship is haunted, with Time magazine including it among its top 10 haunted places. According to some reports, one of the staterooms is alleged to be haunted by the spirit of a person murdered there, supposedly anyway. The Queen Mary also explicitly promotes suite room B340, which was a former third-class cabin as, I quote, notoriously haunted. Many ghost tours take place in the ship, including Dark Harbor, which operates during Halloween. As it stands, up to 50 deaths have been logged on the Queen Mary, which truly makes her one of the most haunted ships in history. In at number 3 we have Salem Mansion. The Salem Mansion is a dark, mysterious and eerie abandoned mansion located in Thessaloniki. The villa was designed in 1878 by Xenophon Paeonides, who was known to be the most famous Greek architect in Thessaloniki. The mansion was bought in 1894 by Emanuel Salem, who was the most important lawyer in the city and an eminent member of the Jewish community. It remained in the family for over 20 years, and the family gave its famous name the Salem Mansion. During World War I, the villa had changed hands after the Salem family left in 1915, and it became the consulate of the Austro-Hungarian Empire for more than half a century. In 1978, the mansion was damaged extensively by an earthquake that devastated Thessaloniki. To this day, the house still belongs to the Italian state but remains deserted. There have been many plans to restore the villa, but for some reason it has yet to be done. This mansion is a very mysterious place, and even just looking at it, you can sense the fear and horror. There are many legends about the place, and many paranormal investigators visit this infamous place to try and communicate with whatever horrific beings haunt the mansion. Many people speak of when they have visited the place that they felt cold air around them, even in the middle of summer, hearing doors close out of nowhere and hearing steps all throughout the house. Locals have mentioned that they stay away from this sinister house due to all the stories and sightings that have happened here. Many think it's cursed and stay as far away as they can. In 2013, the producers of the hit TV show American Horror Story used a photo of the Salem Mansion for one of the posters promoting the new season because of its haunting appearance. None of the people working on the series ever mentioned the home being in Greece, and the series of the show, Coven, revolves around a group of witches and is set in New Orleans, so many believe this house is located in the United States. If you're brave enough to visit the Salem Mansion, you have to go all the way to Greece. In at number 2 we have Kontos Mansion. The Kontos Mansion was built in 1900 for Nicholas Kontos, who was the Russian consul for Greece and lived there with his wife and 4 children. The mansion is located beside the ocean in the small village of Ano Lahonia Pelion. Nicholas was one of the most powerful men in central Greece at the time and was widely known in the Pharsala area, and they owned homes in other places like Volos and Athens. The popular urban legend that surrounds the house is that it's haunted after the death of the Kontos family, who was supposedly poisoned by a dead lizard that had fallen into a jug of milk. It was later found out that the children in the family died in their early teens of tuberculosis, but the urban legend is reinforced by the funerary monument in the cemetery of Volos, which presents a table with a decanter and 3 chairs around it, each inscribed with each name of the children and the age they passed, but they all said they all died at a very young age. No one really knows the truth, so the rumors of this cursed mansion continue to this day. Another legend believes that many war soldiers also haunt the mansion. During World War II, the mansion was occupied by the who used it as headquarters where Greek warriors were interrogated and tortured. There were many Greeks who were tortured and executed in the villa's basement. This mysterious mansion has many different stories, and these are reinforced because many other families who lived in the mansion after the Contos fell into a lot of misfortune, as well as people who worked on the home. Many of the past owners reported hearing spine-chilling screams and cries, causing none of them to stay too long. Some of the workers who helped renovate the villa never saw end results, as many of them unexpectedly died before finishing. Many locals tend to stay away from the haunted mansion, but many tourists come to experience the haunting for themselves. But this mansion is one of many in Greece that have multiple ghost sightings inside and is truly terrifying. To this day, the Kontos mansion stands empty and abandoned, which makes this place even scarier. And finally, in at number 1 we have Villa Kalogis. The Villa Kalogis is located in the Rafina area of Attica, which was owned by Pericles Kalogis, who was a very wealthy but disturbed man. The villa was named after him, and he stayed in the large mansion with his wife and family. The legend says that in 1910 Pericles took the life of his wife before taking his own life, and some versions tell the story of him taking the life of his whole family before taking his own life in the family home. So there are many stories of Pericles and his family haunting the home, and many have seen family members running around the home and hearing mysterious footsteps. During World War II, the home had been taken over by who used it to imprison and torture Greeks in the cellar, who many believe haunt the cellar to this day. Years later, while attempting to demolish the home, the bulldozer being used suddenly stopped working while approaching the house, and after 2 of the workers died from sudden heart attacks, all thoughts of knocking down the home were abandoned. Another popular legend regarding the haunted mansion is that Anab accepted a bet from his friend that he couldn't last a night in the famous haunted house. Well, he did last the night, but when his friend came in the morning to check on his friend, he found him dead in the home. It's said that nothing at all is able to grow for a few meters around the building. Experts who have investigated this phenomenon found that the atmosphere surrounding the house is uncommonly high in negative ions, something that is thought to be linked to paranormal activity. This haunted villa is among one of the most haunted in all of Greece and should be avoided.
Number 5 on this list is the Buda Labyrinth. Buda Labyrinth is a series of tunnels that are all connected under Budapest. It's a naturally forming system that humans have cultivated. They've used this place for many different purposes since ancient times. Storage and shelter are right up there as being some of the biggest. They've also, however, hosted some pretty dark and disturbing things here. These tunnels have been used as torture chambers before. They've been used as a prison before, and even a dungeon back in the day. Due to some of these darker times that the tunnels have seen, it's believed that there's some residual dark energy that resides here, and the tunnels themselves are ultimately haunted. Some of the most commonly spotted spirits in these tunnels are that of 3 women. A while back, 3 female skeletons were found in the depths here. The cause of death was never fully confirmed, but it was believed by how they found them that it would have been horribly brutal. These 3 ghosts haunt this place all the time, and there are even stories about how they used to take people. They would leave the confines of these tunnels and drag unsuspecting victims down here to die. That hasn't happened for several hundred years though, so I think that we're all pretty safe in that regard. They aren't alone down here though. The souls of those who were tortured to death still linger here and oftentimes make themselves known to visitors. Disembodied voices, screams, moans, the feeling of someone's hands grazing over you as you walk past. All of these are very common occurrences down here. We've just seen it time and time again where a place sees a little bit too much darkness and hate and then becomes haunted. The Buda Labyrinth is definitely one of those examples. Highly recommend keeping it off your itinerary if you're traveling to Hungary anytime soon. Number 4 on this list is Witch Island. Yeah, literally a place called Witch Island obviously is going to be making the list. There's an ancient legend that surrounds this island which has given it its name. It was a classic case where people were thought to be witches and were wrongly accused of such and then ultimately put to death. Let's Travel says, it might seem like a pleasant and relaxed place, but there is a creepy story following this place. Sezgid was suffering from a serious drought and the locals were praying for that. Suddenly one day, rain starts with chunks of ice falling from the sky and many locals were convinced of witchcraft. For that reason, 12 people were caught believing that they were witches. They killed them, and since then, locals say that they hear desperate voices crying for help on the riverside. Apparitions are also seen super regularly. These are just normal people too, or at least that's what people think. It's pretty much common knowledge at this point that these women weren't witches at all, but just regular people. These ghosts that show up are desperate and in need, and they look really sad. They probably won't hurt you, but they'll definitely make you feel something. I'd stay away from this island if you can.
Number 3 on this list is Claudia Mirangro's house. Claudia was a woman with a decently easy life who had inherited a reasonable amount of money from her parents' passing. When she was younger, she got married, and she and her husband bought a home in the city of Querétaro. It was at this residence that they had their 3 children. Alfredo was the youngest, Anna was the middle child, and Claudia, named after her mother, was the eldest. Apparently, the family had some happy years living there, but that didn't last forever. Claudia Mirangro's mental state started to decline, and she went down a bit of a rabbit hole. It got to a point where her husband could no longer stand his wife, and he left her and the kids. Poor idea to leave the children in the hands of this woman though. On April 24th, 1989, the voices in her head got far too loud. She was convinced that she was possessed by a demon and that everyone in the city that they were living had turned into spirits. Her madness reached a point of no return, and as the voices beckoned her to do so, she grabbed a knife and went into her children's room, killing them one by one. Hours later, the police were called due to somebody reporting heavy crying. They found the mother covered in blood, mumbling to herself, clutching a bloody knife on the floor. She apparently doesn't remember the incident at all and wholeheartedly believes that a demon was controlling her actions. Claudia went to jail for a long time and is still there to this day, but her children's spirits, they didn't go anywhere. People have reported hearing screams and shrieks coming from that home. The pitter-patter of tiny childlike feet running through it. Someone even reported seeing what looked to be a demon child staring at them through the windows. A death like that from a demon-possessed mother has made this home one of the most haunted places in Mexico. Number 2 on this list is La Posada del Sol. La Posada del Sol is a hotel that is located in the center of Mexico City. Calling it a hotel is a little bit of a stretch though, because at this point it is completely out of commission, covered in graffiti, and a shell of its former self. Even though the exterior of this building has seen far better days, the inside still boasts incredible architecture, making people wonder what could have been. With over 600 rooms, a casino, a theater, a human-sized chessboard, galleries, and much more, this place had aspirations of being the finest hotel in Mexico. That dream was never fully reached though, as construction of the hotel was never finished and had to be halted in 1945. Fernando Saldana Galvan was the man behind this unfinished beauty. He envisioned this hotel to be a centerpiece of Mexico City, a place that people would flock to from around the world, a true beauty that would stand the test of time. Because of this, he poured his blood, sweat, and tears into this place. Problem is that a hotel of this caliber doesn't get made with blood, sweat, or tears. It gets made with money. In 1945, the hotel's construction was stopped because Fernando's debt was insurmountable. The stress and anxiety of never finishing his hotel and not being able to pay off his bills got the better of him, and he hung himself in the hotel yard. After his death, rumors began to sprout about the true intentions of this hotel. Some people stating that Fernando was actually part of a cult and this site was meant to be used as a place for satanic rituals. Other unfounded rumors surfaced that Fernando had actually killed his wife and kids before taking his own life. One thing is certain though, he definitely left this hotel haunted after he died, and not just by his spirit either. A girl was said to have been murdered in the basement at this hotel in its early days, and her spirit still haunts the walls as well. There's an altar in one of the top rooms of this place that people say you must leave candy on. If you don't, then you will be haunted by her undead spirit even after you leave. Number 1 on this list is Santa Paula Cemetery. The Santa Paula Cemetery is located in Guadalajara. The initial purpose of the cemetery was to be a spot designated for those who died of influenza and other epidemics that were ravaging Mexico. In the many years that it's been active though, lore surrounding the spirits that could be potentially living there has exploded. One of its most notable spirits is that of a young boy who died when he was 10 years old. The boy's name was Nachito, and he died over a century ago in 1882. One evening, a massive storm was sweeping through Guadalajara. This was a problem for Nachito though, because he was deathly afraid of the dark, so much so that he had to have 2 torches lit outside of his window every evening. That night when his parents sent him to sleep though, the torches went out due to the storm, and the next morning when his parents came to wake him, they found him dead where he slept. The cause of his death was a heart attack, and it was confirmed that Nachito got so scared of the dark that he had caused himself to have a heart attack and died. They had the funeral shortly after and buried him in the ground, but the next morning when his grieving mother came to visit him, the coffin had been taken out of the ground. His body was still inside the coffin, so they buried him again, except the same thing happened. In fact, they repeated this process 9 times before realizing that he can't be buried underground because he is too scared of the dark. Therefore, they made a special above-ground stone coffin that would always have access to the light. However, it is said that even though this coffin was made, his spirit still haunts the area. Another famous story about this cemetery is in regards to a vampire. Locals say that a vampire was killed by some people who drove a stake through its heart and then buried the body at this cemetery. A while later, the stone marking that had indicated where the vampire had been buried was cracked and a tree was growing through it. They say that if that tree ever dies, the vampire will return and seek vengeance on the people in surrounding areas. This is so rooted in the lore there that they've even built a fence around this tree so no one can come in and wreck it. There are a bunch more stories of how haunted this cemetery is, with sightings of demons and ghosts that I sadly do not have time to cover in this video, but I highly recommend looking this place up if you want a scare.